I remember that morning clearly. The soft golden light filtering through the kitchen window, the scent of cardamom rising from the tea I was preparing, the gentle hum of the ceiling fan. It was early, too early for most, but my hands had learned the rhythm of dawn decades ago. This was my time, the quiet hours before the house woke up, before voices filled the rooms, before I became invisible again. I stood at the stove, stirring the pot slowly, watching the milk swirl and bubble. My joints ached, they always did these days, but I didn't mind. This was what mothers do. We bear the weight silently, gracefully, because love doesn't keep score of pain. The house was mine once. Every corner held a memory. That crack in the wall near the staircase. Arslan made that when he was 7, running with his cricket bat. The faded curtains in the living room. I stitched those myself, years ago, when money was tight and hope was all we had. This home was built with my husband's dreams and my prayers. But now it felt like I was just a guest. A tolerated presence in the house I had once filled with laughter. I heard footsteps upstairs. Light quick. Sania was awake. I poured the tea into 3 cups, arranged them neatly on the tray with the biscuits I had made last night. My hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from something else. Something I couldn't name yet. A heaviness that had settled in my chest over the past few months. "Good morning, Amma G," Sania said as she entered the kitchen. Her voice was pleasant enough, but there was a distance in it. Like she was greeting a stranger, not the woman who had welcomed her into this home with open arms 3 years ago. "Good morning, Beta," I replied softly, offering her a smile. "I've made tea. Fresh parathas will be ready in 5 minutes. She glanced at her phone, not at me. "Oh, I'm not really hungry. Just tea is fine. But you should eat something, Beta. You didn't have dinner properly last night." "Amma G," I said, "I'm fine." Her tone was sharper now, cutting through the air like a blade wrapped in silk. She took her cup and walked toward the living room, still scrolling through her phone. I stood there, holding the spatula, feeling something inside me shrink just a little bit more. It happened so gradually, you see. This fading. It wasn't one big moment of cruelty. It was 1,000 small dismissals, 1,000 polite rejections, 1,000 times I reached out and felt nothing reaching back. Arslan came down a few minutes later, already dressed for work, tie slightly loose around his neck. My boy, my only child, the reason I survived after his father died, the reason I worked 3 jobs to put him through college, the reason I endured every hardship with a smile. "Morning, Ammi," he said, kissing my forehead quickly. At least he still did that. At least that small gesture remained. "Sit, Beta. Eat something before you go." "I'm late, Ammi. Just pack something for me, I'll eat on the way." I wrapped 2 parathas in foil, added some pickle, handed it to him like I'd done 1,000 mornings before. He took it without really looking at me, already thinking about his meetings, his deadlines, his life that no longer had much space for his mother. Sania appeared in the doorway. "Arslan, don't forget we have dinner at my parents' house tonight." "Again," I said before I could stop myself. "But you just went last week." "Amma G, they're my parents. I want to see them." Sania's eyes met mine, and in that brief moment I saw it. The calculation, the subtle assertion of territory. Arslan kissed her cheek. "We'll be back by 10, Ammi. Don't wait up." And just like that, they were gone. The door closed. The silence rushed back in like water filling a sinking ship. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, surrounded by half-eaten breakfast and empty chairs, and felt the loneliness wrap around me like a cold shawl. This wasn't how I imagined growing old. When Arslan got married, I was so happy. I thought I'd finally have a daughter, someone to share my days with, someone to laugh with over chai and old stories. I thought I'd become redundant in the best way possible, replaced not by emptiness, but by love multiplying. But the daughter I hoped for never came. Instead, there was Sania, beautiful, educated, modern, who saw me not as a mother, but as an obstacle, a relic from an old world that she was trying to erase from her new one. I began washing the dishes, my hands moving automatically. The warm water soothed my aching fingers. I looked out the window at the small garden I used to tend. The rose bushes were overgrown now, neglected. Like me. Maybe I should just stay in my room more. I whispered to no one. Maybe that would make everyone happier. But even as I said it, I knew that wasn't the answer. Because a mother's heart doesn't know how to stop caring, stop hoping, stop loving, even when that love is no longer wanted. The days blurred together after that. I began to notice things I had been too hopeful to see before. The way Sonia changed the TV channel the moment I sat down to watch my favorite show. The way she reorganized the kitchen, moving everything I had arranged over decades, making me feel lost in my own space. The way she spoke loudly on the phone to her friends about living with in-laws with that particular tone, half complaint, half mockery. And Arslan, my Arslan was changing too. Or maybe he wasn't changing. Maybe I was just finally seeing clearly. He came home tired every evening, and Sonia was always there first, ready with her version of the day. Her frustrations, her needs, her plans. By the time he turned to me, there was nothing left. Just a tired smile and a quick, "How was your day, Amy?" That didn't really wait for an answer. One evening, I was sitting in the living room trying to read. The room was dimly lit. I hadn't bothered turning on all the lights because I knew they'd complain about the electricity bill. Sonia and Arslan came home together, laughing about something. "Amy, have you eaten?" Arslan asked as he loosened his tie. "Not yet, Beta. I was waiting for you both." Sonia's smile faded slightly. "Amaji, we ate out. I told Arslan I wanted Chinese food." "Oh." I tried to keep my voice neutral. "I made Kia. Your favorite, Arslan." "That's nice, Amy, but I'm full." "Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow." How many times had I heard that? How many meals had I cooked with love and watched grow cold, untouched? Sonia went upstairs, and for a brief moment, it was just Arslan and me. Just like the old days, when he was young and it was just us against the world. "Beta," I said softly, "can we talk for a minute?" He looked at his watch. "Can it wait, Amy? Sonia and I are supposed to video call her sister. She just had a baby." "Of course," I said quickly. "It's nothing important." He squeezed my shoulder absently and went upstairs. I sat there in the dimness, holding my book that I could no longer read because my vision had blurred with tears. Nothing important. That's what I had become. Nothing important. I started spending more time in my room. It was easier that way. I could hear them laughing downstairs, moving freely through the house, making plans without asking, living their lives without the uncomfortable reminder of the old woman upstairs. At night, I would lie in bed and remember. Memory is a strange companion when you're lonely. It comforts and torments in equal measure. I remembered Arslan as a baby, so small I was terrified to hold him at first. I remembered his father, my husband, telling me, "You're going to be an amazing mother." 3 years later, my husband was gone, a sudden heart attack that left me widowed at 32 with a small child and a mountain of debt. Everyone told me to move back to my parents' village, to give up, to let life defeat me. But I looked at Arslan's face, and I decided that defeat was not an option. I took a job at a school, taught tuitions in the evening, stitched clothes at night. My hands were never empty, never still. Every rupee I earned went into my son's future. His books, his uniform, his dreams. I never remarried. Not because offers didn't come, but because I had made a promise to myself and to my husband's memory. Arslan would have everything. All of me, all my time, all my energy, all my love. And he did. He excelled in school, got a scholarship for college, landed a good job, made me so proud I thought my heart would burst. This house, the one where I now felt like an intruder, I bought it with 20 years of savings. Every brick, every tile, every window was bought with sacrifice. When did that stop mattering? When did my history in these walls become less important than her comfort? I heard laughter downstairs. Sonia's voice, bright and animated. "No, no, Arslan. Your mother doesn't understand modern kitchens. She still wants to cook on high flame and waste gas." More laughter. I pulled the blanket over my head and tried to unhear it. But some words, once spoken, echo forever. The neighbor, Mrs. Casme, visited one afternoon. She was an old friend, someone who had known me since I first moved to this neighborhood decades ago. "Why are you looking so thin?" she asked, holding my hand with concern. "Are you eating properly?" "I'm fine, just the usual aches and pains of age," I replied, trying to smile. She wasn't fooled. "I haven't seen you in the garden for weeks. You used to love those roses." Sonia planted new flowers. She has her own ideas about the garden. Mrs. Casme's eyes softened with understanding, the kind that comes from years of living, of seeing patterns repeat across generations. "And where are you in this house now?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. She squeezed my hand. "Your silence speaks louder than words, my friend." After she left, I stood at the window and watched her walk away, her words echoing. Your silence speaks louder than words. But who was listening? Who cared to hear? That night at dinner, I tried again. I had made Arslan's favorite, biryani with extra raita, exactly how he liked it. "Beta, I was thinking," I began carefully, "maybe this weekend we could visit your Kala. She keeps asking about you." Sonia looked up sharply. "This weekend? We already have plans, Arslan. The Metas invited us to their farmhouse. Ami will go see Kala next month," Arslan said without looking up from his plate. "You said that last month too," I said quietly. The silence that followed was sharp, uncomfortable. Sonia set down her fork with deliberate precision. "Amaji, you need to understand that Arslan has a life now. He has responsibilities, social commitments. We can't just drop everything every time you want to visit relatives. Every time, as if I asked constantly, as if my one request in 3 months was an unbearable burden." "I understand," I said, though I didn't. "I didn't understand how your mother's wishes became so easy to dismiss. I was just thinking." "That's the problem, Amaji. You think about the past. We're trying to build our future." I looked at Arslan, waiting for him to say something, anything. He was chewing slowly, eyes fixed on his plate, trapped in the cowardice of silence. And that's when I knew. Whatever battle I thought I was fighting, I had already lost. Not because of Sonia's words, but because of my son's silence. I began preparing for the inevitable. Not consciously at first, but in small ways. I organized my old photographs in boxes. I pulled out the few pieces of jewelry I had, my wedding bangles, the small gold chain my mother gave me, the ring my husband proposed with, and wrapped them carefully. I wrote Arslan's name on the box. Everything I owned would be his anyway. I was just making it easier. One afternoon, while cleaning my room, I found an old letter. My husband had written it to me during one of his work trips, years before Arslan was born. Asterisk, "My dearest, I think about the family we'll build together. The children we'll raise with love and values. I hope they'll always respect you, cherish you, and remember that a mother's love is the purest thing in this world. You're going to be an extraordinary mother." Asterisk, I sat on the floor and cried. Really cried. The kind of crying that shakes your whole body, that comes from a place so deep you didn't know it existed. I tried. I whispered to the letter, to his memory, to the empty room. I tried to be extraordinary, but somewhere I failed. Then came the day everything shattered beyond repair. It was a Thursday afternoon. I remember because Thursdays used to be my favorite. It was the day I'd make halwa and share it with neighbors, the day that felt closest to Friday, closest to rest. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. Sonia's friends were coming over. She'd mentioned it at breakfast, and I had deliberately stayed upstairs to give them space. But then I heard voices, laughter, and the clatter of teacups. Something in me, maybe old habit, maybe the ghost of who I used to be in this house, made me think I should go down and offer help. Be the hospitable elder. Be useful. I came downstairs quietly. The living room was full of young women, all dressed beautifully, chatting animatedly. Sonia was showing them something on her phone. "Let me make tea for everyone," I offered gently from the doorway. The conversation paused. All eyes turned to me. Sonia's smile was tight. That's okay, I'm a G. We already ordered tea from outside. It'll be here soon. But I can make it fresh, Beta. It's no trouble. I said it's fine. Her voice had an edge now. The visitors exchanged quick glances. I should have left, but something stubborn in me, some last remaining ember of dignity, made me walk toward the coffee table where the cups were arranged. At least let me serve. I'm a G. Sonia stood up, and suddenly the entire room felt colder. Please, just sit outside. You're making the place look messy. The words hit me like a physical blow. Time stopped. The room swam in front of my eyes, making the place look messy. Me, the woman who built this place, who scrubbed these floors on hands and knees when we couldn't afford help, who painted these walls, who made this house a home. I was the mess. I was the thing that didn't fit. I was the embarrassment to be hidden away when company came. The visitors looked down at their hands, their phones, anywhere but at me. The silence was suffocating, crushing. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Arslan had come home early. He stood frozen, halfway down, his briefcase still in hand. He'd heard everything. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I saw it all. His shock, his shame, his paralysis. He was torn between his wife and his mother, and I already knew which side the tear would favor. Arslan! Sonia began, her voice suddenly softer, more defensive. But I didn't wait to hear more. I turned and walked out. Not ran, walked. With whatever dignity I had left wrapped around me like an invisible cloak. I walked through the kitchen, out the back door, to the small veranda behind the house. The place where I used to sit with my husband in the evenings, where I used to watch Arslan play as a child, where I thought I'd grow old peacefully. I sat down on the old wooden chair, the one piece of furniture that had survived all these years, and I looked up at the sky. It was that strange time between afternoon and evening, when the sun hasn't set but the light has started to change, becoming gentler, sadder. The tears came silently. I didn't sob. I didn't wail. I just let them fall, these tears that had been building for months, years maybe. Maybe this home no longer needs a mother. I whispered to the sky, to God, to anyone who might still be listening. Behind me, I heard the murmur of conversation resume in the living room. Life going on as if nothing had happened, as if a woman hadn't just been shattered in her own home. Mrs. Kazmi appeared at her window next door. She must have heard something, sensed something. Our eyes met across the small distance between our houses, and her face crumpled with understanding and pain. She came over immediately, sat beside me without a word, and held my hand. I can't stay here anymore, I said quietly. I can't keep being a burden, an embarrassment, a mess to be hidden away. Where will you go? The old house, the village house where we used to live before. It's still there. Small, old, but it's mine. It's still mine. Don't make any decisions right now, Mrs. Kazmi said gently. You're hurting. I've been hurting for a long time, I interrupted. Today just made it visible. That night, I packed a small bag. Just the essentials, some clothes, my medications, the box of photographs, my husband's letter. I moved quietly, like a thief in my own home, which is exactly how I felt. I could hear them downstairs. Arslan and Sonia were arguing, muffled voices rising and falling, his anger finally finding its voice too late, her defensive justifications. But it didn't matter anymore. The words had been spoken. The truth had been revealed. I left a note on the kitchen table, weighted down with the house keys. I didn't need them anymore. Asterisk Beta, I'm going to the village house for some time. Don't worry about me. Be happy. You're Amy. Asterisk. At dawn, before anyone woke up, I left. The old rickshaw driver from the corner, the one who had driven Arslan to school for years, took me to the bus station. He didn't ask questions, but his eyes were kind, understanding. As the bus pulled away from the city, I watched the buildings disappear behind me. I didn't feel sad, exactly. I felt lighter, like a burden I'd been carrying without realizing it had finally been set down. The village house was exactly as I'd left it. Small, dusty, filled with the ghosts of better days. But it was mine. No one could tell me I was making it look messy. No one could dismiss me here. I cleaned one room, hung my few clothes, made simple tea on the old stove, and sat by the window watching the sunset. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. The days in the village moved differently. Slower, quieter. The first week, I barely left the house. I cleaned, organized, swept away years of dust and neglect. Physical work helped. It kept my hands busy and my mind from wandering too far into dark places. The neighbors, mostly elderly people I'd known decades ago, started visiting. Word spreads fast in small villages. Everyone knew the widow had returned alone. "Where is your son?" they'd ask gently. "Busy with his life in the city," I'd reply with a practiced smile. They understood. In village silences, there's more wisdom than in city words. I started a small routine. Morning prayers, garden work, cooking simple meals just for myself, an adjustment that hurt more than I expected. Afternoon rest. Evening walks to the old temple at the edge of the village. The rhythm was healing, slowly stitching together the torn parts of my heart. At night, though, the loneliness was sharp. I'd lie in bed and wonder what Arslan was doing. If he missed me, if he thought about me at all, if Sonia had rearranged my room yet, turned it into the guest room or home office she'd always wanted. I didn't call. I didn't text. Silence had become my language, my protest, my prayer. Back in the city, though I didn't know it yet, things were falling apart. Arslan couldn't focus at work. His mind kept replaying that moment, his mother's face when Sonia said those words, the way she walked out with her dignity barely intact, the sound of the door closing at dawn when she left. "Why aren't you calling her?" Sonia asked, irritated. "If you miss her so much, just call." "You don't get it," he said, his voice hollow. "She shouldn't have to be called. She should be here. In her home. It's our home too, Arslan. I have a right to feel comfortable. Comfortable." His voice rose. "You humiliated my mother in front of your friends. You called her a mess. I didn't mean it like that. I was just stressed. They were important friends. More important than my mother." The question hung in the air, unanswered. The house felt wrong without me. The kitchen was cleaner, more organized, but something essential was missing. The smell of morning chai, the sound of prayers at dawn, the feeling that someone cared if you came home safely. Arslan would wake up sometimes and forget, walking toward the kitchen expecting to see me. The disappointment when reality hit was physical. Sonia tried to fill the gap. She cooked his favorite meals, but they didn't taste right. She tried making kheer and burned it. She grew frustrated with his melancholy, with his constant distraction. "How long are you going to punish me for this?" she demanded one evening. "I'm not punishing you. I'm just realizing who I've become." The relatives started calling. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone wanted to know why Ahmadji had left. Sonia's parents called, awkwardly trying to mediate. His Khala, my sister, called and didn't mince words. "Your father would be ashamed of you," she told Arslan. "That woman sacrificed everything for you. Everything. And you let your wife treat her like a servant, like an inconvenience." Each call was a hammer blow of guilt. Then the neighbors started. Mrs. Kazmi stopped greeting Sonia. The shopkeepers asked pointed questions. "Where is your mother-in-law? Such a kind woman. Always had a smile, always helped everyone." Sonia began to feel it, the weight of community judgment, the slow realization that maybe she'd gone too far. She'd visit her parents and hear them praise their own mothers. She'd scroll through social media and see posts celebrating mothers and feel a strange twist in her stomach. She'd remember her own grandmother, how much she'd loved her, and wonder when she'd become someone who could say such cruel words. The guilt grew, started small, a tiny seed of discomfort, then spread like roots, entangling everything. One evening, she found herself looking through old photos on Arslan's phone. There was one of him as a child, wearing a school uniform that was slightly too big, grinning at the camera. Behind him, barely visible, was me, young, smiling proud. She read the caption, written years ago, first day of school. Amy sold her jewelry to pay the fees. I'm going to make her proud. Something broke open in her chest. A month had passed since I left. I was sitting in my small garden, tending to the tomato plants I'd started growing, when I heard it. A car. In the village, cars were rare. Everyone knew the sound of a city vehicle. I looked up and felt my heart stutter. Arslan. He stepped out of the car, and I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight. There were shadows under his eyes. He looked lost. We stared at each other across the small distance. A lifetime of love and a month of pain compressed into one moment. He walked toward me slowly, and I saw his eyes filling with tears. Amy, he whispered, his voice breaking. I stood up, brushing dirt from my hands, trying to maintain composure. You came. Of course I came. I should have come the day after you left. I should have never let you leave. I should have. His voice cracked completely. He fell to his knees in the dirt in front of me, this grown man, this successful professional, and he wept. Deep, gut-wrenching sobs. I'm sorry, Amy. I'm so sorry. I failed you. I forgot everything you did for me. I let myself. I don't know who I became. I stood there, my own tears falling, and placed my hand on his head. The same head I'd cradled as a baby, stroked during fevers, kissed before school every day for years. Beta! Please come back. Please. The house is empty without you. I'm empty without you. I pulled him up gently. Arslan, listen to me. No, Amy, you listen. His eyes were desperate. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I failed as a son. But please give me a chance to fix this. Let me be the son you raised. The son Abba would have wanted me to be. Behind him, another car door opened. Sonia stepped out. She looked different too. Smaller somehow. Her usual confidence stripped away. We locked eyes, and I saw genuine remorse there. Not the performative apology I'd received before, but real pain. She walked toward us slowly, and when she was a few feet away, she stopped. Then, to my complete shock, she knelt in the dirt. Amaji, she said, her voice thick with tears. I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. What I said, what I did, there's no excuse. I was cruel. I was selfish. I took everything you built and made you feel unwelcome in it. I said nothing, just watched her. I thought having space meant having freedom, she continued. I thought modern marriage meant keeping some distance from in-laws. I thought so many wrong things. And I justified every small cruelty by telling myself I deserved comfort, deserved priority. She wiped her eyes roughly. But this past month, without you, I've seen what I destroyed. I felt the emptiness of a house without a mother's presence. I've realized that respect isn't old-fashioned. Love isn't a competition. And family isn't about hierarchy, it's about honor. She looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before, genuine humility. I can't undo what I did. I can't erase those words. But if you give me a chance, just one chance, I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of being called your daughter. The garden was silent except for the wind, rustling through the tomato plants. 2 people knelt in the dirt before me, waiting for judgment or mercy. I looked at them, my son, who had momentarily lost his way, and the girl who had never been taught the value of what she had, and I made a choice. Not out of weakness, not out of loneliness, but out of wisdom. Stand up, I said quietly. Both of you. They stood waiting. Sonia, I said, looking directly at her, do you know why your words hurt so much? Not because they were rude, not because they were disrespectful, but because they revealed something I'd been trying not to see, that I had no place in my son's life anymore, that I had become invisible. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. A home without respect is just a building, and respect isn't about always agreeing. It's not about never having space. It's about seeing each other's humanity. It's about remembering that everyone in the family has sacrificed something to be there. I turned to Arslan. And you, Beta. Your silence was worse than her words. Because you knew better. You knew what I had given up. You knew what I had sacrificed. And yet you chose comfort over courage. I know, Amy. I know. If I come back, and I haven't decided yet, things will be different. I won't accept being tolerated. I won't live as a guest in my own home. I won't make myself small so others can feel big. You shouldn't have to, Sonia said quickly. You shouldn't. Amaji, please teach me. Teach me how to be a good daughter-in-law. Teach me how to honor you the way you deserve. I don't know how. My mother and grandmother lived separately. I never saw this kind of family, but I want to learn. I want to do better. I looked at this young woman, really looked at her, and saw what I had missed before. She wasn't evil. She was ignorant. She was a product of a culture that had told her that independence meant separation, that love was finite, that families were obstacles rather than foundations. Respect is taught by example, I said softly. Not by rules, not by obligation, by love. I looked at the small house behind me, then at the city car, then at my son's desperate face. Give me tonight to think, I said. Come back tomorrow morning. That night, I sat under the stars and talked to my husband's memory. What should I do? I asked the darkness. They hurt me, deeply. Part of me wants to stay here, in this peace, away from the pain. But another part, the wind rustled the leaves, and I remembered something he used to say. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's about not letting bitterness poison what's left of your time on this earth. I thought about Arslan as a baby, as a child, as a young man. I thought about the love that had built this life. I thought about the fact that we all fail sometimes. We all lose our way. The question wasn't whether they deserved forgiveness. The question was whether I deserved peace. And peace, I realized, wouldn't come from isolation. It would come from restoration, from teaching, from being the mother, the elder, the guide I had always wanted to be. When they arrived the next morning, I was ready. I had packed my small bag. I stood waiting outside the house. Arslan's face lit up with hope. Amy, I'll come back, I said, but on conditions. Anything, Sonia said immediately. I want my space in the house, not hidden away, not sidelined. I'm part of this family, and I will be treated as such. Absolutely, Arslan said. I want honesty. If something bothers you, Sonia, tell me. Don't let resentment build. We'll talk. We'll find solutions, but with respect. I promise, she said. And Arslan. I turned to my son. I need you to remember who you are. A husband, yes, but also a son. Both roles matter. Balance isn't about choosing. It's about honoring both. I understand, Amy. I won't fail you again. I looked at them both. This isn't going to be perfect. We'll have difficult days. But families aren't built on perfection. They're built on commitment, on choosing each other even when it's hard. Sonia stepped forward. Amaji, I want to say something. I nodded. I want you to teach me everything. How to cook the way Arslan loves. How to run the house with wisdom, not just efficiency. How to be the kind of woman I see when I look at you. Someone strong enough to forgive, generous enough to try again. Something warm spread through my chest. Finally, I was being seen. Then let's go home, I said. The return was quiet. No grand celebration. Just a simple arrival. But the house felt different immediately. Sonia had cleaned my room, but not changed it. She bought fresh flowers and placed them on my side table. She'd stocked my favorite tea in the kitchen. Small gestures, but meaningful ones. That evening, we cooked together for the first time. I showed her how to make proper biryani, the real way, with patience and love. She listened intently, asked questions, took notes on her phone. Why did you never tell me this was hard? She asked, laughing as she struggled with the rice. Because teaching is better than telling, I said. Arslan sat at the kitchen table, watching us with something like wonder on his face. I never thought I'd see this, he said quietly. See what? Sonia asked. Both my favorite people together. Happy. That night, after dinner, Sonia came to my room with a cup of tea. I made this for you, she said. It's not as good as yours, but I tried. I sipped it. It was too strong, a bit too sweet, but it was made with care. "It's perfect," I said. She sat on the edge of my bed, and for the first time we talked. Really talked. About her childhood, her fears, her struggles with expectations. About my life, my losses, my journey. About what family meant to each of us. "I was scared," she admitted. "Scared that if I let you in too much, I'd lose myself. Lose my identity as Arslan's wife. I thought marriage was about creating a bubble, just the two of us. But bubbles are fragile," I said gently. "Families are strong. I see that now." Over the following weeks, something beautiful happened. We found our rhythm. Sonia started calling me Amma without the formal G, a small change that meant everything. She'd ask my opinion about things, actually listen to my answers. We'd sit together in the evenings, the three of us, and talk about our days. Arslan would rest his head on my lap like he used to as a child, and Sonia would show me funny videos on her phone. She took me to the doctor when my knee pain worsened, insisted on taking the day off work to accompany me. She started keeping my medications organized, reminding me to take them. "You're taking care of me," I said one day, surprised. "Of course I am. You're my mother, too," she replied simply. Tears came to my eyes. The daughter I had always wanted was emerging, slowly but surely. One evening, Sonia's parents came to visit. I was nervous. Our relationship had been strained, but her mother embraced me warmly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for teaching my daughter what I should have taught her years ago." "What's that?" I asked. "That strength isn't about independence. It's about connection." Months passed. The wounds healed. The house became a home again. I started gardening again. Sonia helped, getting her hands dirty, laughing when she accidentally pulled up flowers instead of weeds. We planted roses together, side by side. Mrs. Kazmi would visit and marvel at the transformation. "I've never seen anything like it," she'd say. "Most families break at these points. But you've all grown." One day, Sonia came to me with news. Her hands were shaking as she held the pregnancy test. "I'm scared to be a mother," she admitted. "What if I'm not good enough?" I held her hands. "You'll be wonderful. Because now you understand what matters. Love, patience, sacrifice. You've learned the hard lessons. You'll teach them to your child gently." When the baby was born, a beautiful little girl, Sonia asked if she could name her after my mother. "I want her to carry the strength of generations," she said. "The strength you've shown me." Holding my granddaughter, watching Sonia look at me with love and respect, seeing Arslan become the man I always knew he could be, this was everything. Not because there had been no pain, but because we had walked through the pain together and found grace on the other side. One evening, I sat on the veranda, the same veranda where I had cried that awful day, and Sonia joined me with 2 cups of tea. "Amma," she said softly, "I think about that day a lot. The day I said those terrible words. And I wonder, how did you forgive me so completely?" I looked at the sunset, at the roses blooming, at the life we had rebuilt. "Because forgiveness isn't about forgetting," I said. "It's about understanding that we're all human. We all fail. We all hurt people we love. The real measure of character is what we do after. Do we learn? Do we grow? Do we choose love even when it's hard?" "You taught me that," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You taught me by example. You could have stayed angry, stayed away. But you came back. You gave me a chance I didn't deserve." "Everyone deserves a chance to become better," I replied. "And look at you now. You're not the same person who said those words. You've grown into someone beautiful." She laid her head on my shoulder, and we sat in comfortable silence as the sun set. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the journey, the pain, the exile, the return, the restoration, and I realized something profound. My silence had never been weakness. It was the space that allowed change to happen. It was the teaching that words could never accomplish. It was the lesson that changed hearts forever. I had left not out of defeat, but out of dignity. And in leaving, I had given my family the chance to see what they had lost, to feel my absence so deeply that they understood my value. Some lessons can only be learned through loss. Some love can only be understood through longing. Some respect can only be earned through boundary. I closed my eyes and felt, for the first time in years, complete peace. My house was my home again. My son was my son again. And I had gained the daughter I had always prayed for. Not through force, not through suffering, but through the quiet power of a mother's love and the unbreakable strength of silence. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is step back. Let people feel your absence. Let them realize what they've taken for granted. Asterisk, asterisk. Silence isn't weakness. It's the lesson that changes hearts forever. And in the end, love always finds its way home.